Hey, Steve Riley, welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Rich, thanks for being here. And one of the challenges that we have all the time with our lawyers, especially when we talk about this particular topic, is it's difficult for them to wrap their brains around it. Could you just spend a moment, because you were in the legal industry, could you just spend a moment and talk about how you got introduced to emotional intelligence and the impact it made and how it pivoted your career?
Absolutely, Steve. And I, in a previous life, I should have been a litigator just because I love this question and I love this topic in this world. And as I currently coach law firms and attorneys and I work with GC teams and legal operations, like I'm in this world talking about emotional intelligence and law all the time. So the story that I'll go back to is the fact that I was working in a law firm as a business development manager, thought I was doing great, came from the corporate world, was rocking and rolling, really driving revenue for my attorneys, my internal clients. And then one day, while I thought I was performing at a high level, I had all the symptoms of a heart attack. And sitting in my office, I'm like, okay, this is not good. I've got to do something about this. I get up and I leave, go to the hospital, check myself into the ER and get hooked up to an EKG machine to get me tested out, which if you've never been hooked up to an EKG machine, I have experienced that for you. It is not fun. Don't go do it. And so as I'm laying there, I'm hearing the beeps. I'm waiting on the doctor to come back. The doctor comes in and says, well, I've got good news and I got bad news. Not a great way to open bedside manner. And he says, the good news is you're not having a heart attack, but the bad news is that you're having one of the worst panic attacks I've seen in a long time. So we talked about my lifestyle, talked about my workday, talked about my stress levels, my habits, my eating, my sleeping, my exercise, everything. And he says, hey, I have something I want to prescribe to you, but it's not a medication. And I've got it. This is the original prescription that I got for it. So it's a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And he said, I'm reading this book. It is game changing for me. Obviously, I have a very high stress job. Please go read this book, see what happens. And if it doesn't work, here's my number. Call me and we'll kind of reevaluate things. So I get the book, read it, start putting it into play. A lot of great, it dissects what emotional intelligence is, but gives a lot of real world examples, a lot of facts and situational experiences as well. It completely blew my mind, changed my life 100%. And so I bring it into the legal space. I'm also very much I'm the one of the few people in the world that's not afraid of public speaking. I actually love it. And so I'm thinking to myself, I've got this great information. I've got this natural knack for public speaking. And I'm sitting in an industry, the legal industry, which is the second worst in any industry in America for emotional intelligence and stress. Only, ironically, second to healthcare. Healthcare is the worst. And so I started talking about this topic, and it continues to grow in this world. And because I think so many people in this industry think that they are emotionally intelligent, but they are not. They think that they're in control, but deep down inside, there's something unraveling slowly or quickly in my case. So being able to talk about this in the legal industry is everything I need it to be because I'm helping people all the time.
If you were to give me or give our audience 3 practical tips about how to raise their emotional intelligence, how would you go about that, Rich? Like, how would you approach this?
So this is my favorite thing to share because I also roll my eyes that I get paid to talk about this. But the number one thing you can do is breathe. And it sounds ridiculous, but if you're in
Okay,
a
let me
tense
sort of slow you
situation,
down. Let me try this again. The
right?
number one thing I can do is what?
Breathe,
Breathe, like, take a deep breath, breathe.
take a deep breath.
Okay.
So contentious conversations. If you're in a situation that you hear something from a client that is not ideal, if you are stressed, if you are under the gun as far as a project deadline or a matter deadline or a case deadline, all of these things are typical responses that we hold our breaths, grit our teeth, and we try to push through it. And we are carrying so much stress. But when we take a deep breath, or we hear about box breathing, when we take those intentional breaths, we actually lower our cortisol, we lower our heart rate, and we take better control of our stress and anxiety. We are also better communicators. We have better reactions. I've worked with some attorneys in my career who were literally the hottest heads that you've ever been around. That they literally would fire off the minute. And I'm sure I've probably issued a new challenge within the legal industry. Who's the hottest head?
Yeah. No, no,
But I had attorneys like,
let's stop. no
Yes.
one take Rich on as a challenge here. This is not a challenge. This is many of you could become hotter heads than the other people. Listen to what Rich is saying. You want to do the
It,
opposite.
it makes me think of like the state fair competitions where they have like chicken calls or bird calls or something like that. Maybe we could
Yeah.
do like a hothead contest at the end of the
Oh
law
my
firms.
god. Well, you're
Um,
saying that, I'm thinking about the first firm I worked at, how many fights there were, how many fist
mhm,
fight I personally had as a lawyer. I'm thinking these things through. Hothead is a big problem, and
mhm,
sometimes we think it's a badge of honor, but what you're saying is, "No, no, no, take a breath,
mhm.
catch your breath,
Yes.
and calm the heck down."
Mhm. Because there is nothing better, especially I've seen it happen right in front of my eyes. There's nothing better when you see an attorney take a deep breath and then you take the higher road, the lower stress, the lower volume, but put the point forward without having to scream and yell about it. That is control of the situation. That is also it's higher in persuasion as well. But if you're just yelling and screaming and trying to intimidate, that is a temporary lapse of control because that's going to be short lived. It's going to be problematic, especially if it's happening within your teams. I've seen it unfold within teams, within firms, and it becomes so problematic. You break trust, you break communication. And for those that think they're going to run around their firms being the hothead, strong armed attorney, I promise you, you are being left out of cross sell conversations. You're being left out of referral situations because just because you're good at law or just because you're good at your specific kind of law does not mean that people want or should have to deal with you if that's the way you carry yourself.
Now
So
this is the
breathing is number one.
give me give me number 2. What's number
Number
2?
two would be ask better questions. And I think this goes for business development. This goes for client service. This goes for collaboration. This goes for networking outside of just law. I know a lot of the lawyers that I've coached and still coach to this day work a lot with accountants or consultants. And so there's a lot of cross networking that goes in with it in different industries. Ask better questions. Any attorney that goes in to pitch a client that is just talking about themselves, talking about their firm, talking about the accolades, talking about everything that they can possibly do, has already lost. If you go in and say, there's a lot of things we can share, but I have a few questions I want to ask you first, client or prospect, to understand your needs better. We've done some research. We understand why we're here, but we have some follow-up questions we'd like to ask. That puts the client in the spotlight in a good way. And it makes you more empathetic. You can listen to what's going on. But if you sit there and just talk at them for 30, 40, 60 minutes, they're going to tune out. They've already looked at your website. They've already looked at your bio. They've seen all your great badges of accolades. They understand who you are. You wouldn't be sitting at the table if you didn't pass the competency test. Now it's the conversation test. And I heard a GC say something once that was just perfect for this. I asked them, I said, look, when it comes time for you to decide who you want to work with, whether it's a firm, an individual attorney, somebody within the firm, how do you decide who you want to work with? And they said at some point, I'm going to be locked in a room trying to get a deal done by midnight. And I have to look around that room and say, am I glad I'm with these people? Do I actually like these people? Or can I just not get out of here quick enough because I can't stand these people and I've objectively just got to get this done? Do I want to go celebrate our work with a beer and a burger afterwards? Or do I want to get in my car and drive as fast away as possible? If I like the individuals and I get along with them and I look forward to working with them because they have good things to say and I feel like they care about me, that's everything. But if we're talking and not asking questions, we can't establish that bond. So that relationship management piece and the social awareness piece of understanding when you ask the question, listen to the answer, listen for a follow-up, listen for something that you can dive into. That is critical to the relationships.
I like it. So presume that you're competent enough. You don't need to sell competency.